This is the Jr Hendrick Texan Gentleman podcast that deals with the early life of my alter ego, Jr Hendrick. This episode is in a narrated format, commentary by myself and Jr. Relax and enjoy the adventure. Take care. God bless. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. Me and trusty JR. I am not in much of a mood this morning as I record this. Jimmy, calm down. We know how technical difficulties get. So, to ease the blow, how about we get us a couple of root beers? And we're going to drink a little swig. How about just one? We're going to drink a little swig every time we notice that my mama was emoting. I agree. So, here we go. Let's sit down and enjoy this. This episode is called Open Acceptance. The time period is around the week of March 15, 1996, 28 years ago today. Okay, now here we go. Open acceptance. Well, thanks to the help of our friend Brett.
Well, he's hanging out with Betsy, so I can't see him anymore. You should be pleased with yourself.
Anytime that you want to bathe, you come to old JR.
I like you, JR, but I can't afford you. I'm worried about your aunt. She's been holed up. Mom, relax. Between Uncle Jim and my heels, she'll be taken care of. We're going to give you some cover letters to your job, Flint. You have so much going for you, son.
Okay, so let's get down to the nitty gritty. You guys are this is gonna be interesting stuff. Okay. Someone will probably end up getting the bell this episode. Even though it is a household morning. Someone is probably most likely going to be getting the bell. Okay, so here we go. Right now I'm looking for the Documents app. Yeah. Primarily use Google Docs. Okay, so we start the 9th of June. It's 9 a.m. Eastern, and in the Oval Office, President Clinton is meeting briefly with Alexander Irons. Give me just a bit of gossip. I ain't got much time, President Clinton said. Trouble in paradise. Jr and Betsy are being testy toward each other because of their grief. And she's refusing to leave the ranch when he leaves on the 17th. Miss Betsy holds out like that, I think he might cheat. I mean, something like his family has got to slow him down. Okay, so it's 9 a.m. Central. At a flower shop in Arlington, Texas, Jr. is preparing for shipment of some items. He's getting 2 dozen roses, 2 dozen yellow roses. For Kristen Haig while she's on spring break, and he's also looking into getting an old bottle of wine for Karen Craven. You still have a thing for her back then? No, it's over. It's over. And the shop madam said, yes, sir, right away, Mr. Hendrick. And so he gets the roses and everything. And here comes Jr. 2 days before, I got a call from Karen. Even though she was dating Donald, we decided that we wanted to be friends. So meanwhile, at a CBS TV station, Christine's being interviewed. Now, 9:15 a.m. in the living room of the mansion in Gainesville, Thomas and Rachel talk. And Thomas says, Jim is speaking at some high school rally in Irving. Christine is being interviewed by some reporters in Irving. And JR's in Arlington buying flowers and getting ready to see his girl. And she says, Tom, this thing is getting out of hand. But she won't come out of her room. She gets a servant to bring her coffee and breakfast. Her feelings are tied up in the knot. With him also is associate pastor of Calvary Baptist Church, Ed Chapman. And he spoke up. You need to give it some time. I'll stop by later on this evening to talk to Jim and Betsy. Has to talk only when she's ready. Okay, so now it is 11 a.m., Waxahachie, Texas. Brent's in the study and everything, and in walks his mother. And she says, Brent, turn off your cell phone? And Brent's like, sure. Turns off his cell phone. And Margie embraces Brent. And it's the first time that you notice anything like that. And she said, you should be pleased with yourself in all your effects because of polling. And Brent, he's kind of stunned. He's like, polling? You wrote new stories that would put your father to shame. I want you to consider media jobs in Rowlett, Arlington, anywhere you want, Margie said, crying. Tears of joy. I'm proud of you, son. With your knack and your intellect, you can soon be on radio or TV or anywhere on electronic media. And Brent's like, but Mama, hear me out. That's not what I figured that plan for my life. And she says, listen to me. Being unsure of yourself is how I was 20 years ago. Your father gave me that strength and confidence. And Brent Ledbetter Clark, I know you have it in you, Margie said, backing up from her son. My private secretary will keep some cover letters for the job opportunities of your choice. As she leaves, Brent turns to her. Mama, I'm about to graduate into the real world in a couple of months. And a part of me is scared. Please, check in every once in a while and walk me through this. And Margie's like, we'll see you at lunch, Brent. It's funny. She's off in the living room and then she's like on schedule. Okay, so it's 1 p.m. Meanwhile, Christine, she's still being interviewed on TV. And the reporter said, tell me, Miss Hendrick, how is it that you uncovered this story? And Christine spoke up. She said, John Henry is a fiance of my brother's ex-girlfriend. He's a blogger. He came to London to look into social policy and world order. you have a manila envelope with my name on it. And the reporter, she's like, well, sorry, it's classified. We can't release it to you until the end. And okay, so now it's 5 p.m. It's raining cats and dogs in Gainesville. And Thomas pulls up in the drive of the Hendrick estate and walks inside and finds Betsy sitting and crying silently in the living room. All right. Best drink some of that root beer, Jamie. Best drink some of that root beer. And Thomas says, what's it going to take for you to tell you? Wait, it's Betsy. She's angry. What's it going to take for you to tell you? I don't want to talk about your cheap little hussy. And Thomas said, I want to talk about Rachel and Grandma. I was 13 years old. My dad let me live with you guys, off and on, at the ranch. Grandma was like this, queen lady, that was so incredibly wonderful. But one time, I saw one of the kids misbehaving, misbehaving and treating the other kids. And Grandma switched her with a switch. She's just a human woman with human feelings. We still love her. But she makes mistakes like everybody else. So Betsy raises her mother's portrait over the TV in the living room and stomps upstairs. Okay, so it's 9 p.m. Kristen sneaks into her grandmother's den to watch TV, namely a disability forum video where she met JR for the third time, longing for him. Yeah, you could say she's pining for me. Things come to a head? Not yet. Not yet. Twists and turns get more interesting. I see. Okay. So now it is 5 a.m. In her bedroom, Betsy wakes up, turns on the light, and begins staring at the wall, silently crying. We have more root beer than that. Don't we, JR? We can drink water if we have to. There's more root beer. I know there is. There it is. Let's crack open this root beer. For every time that Betsy is silently emoting. It's all bound to come out. You were there, Jr. Let's not give a spoiler alert in that episode. Alright, I won't. Okay, so it's 10 a.m. Kristen instructs her nanny to avoiding all phone calls from Brent Clark. She opens up her phone and listens to an old voicemail from Jr. Man, she's pining. She's pining. At the same time, sitting outside the church after spring break, Jim calls Mike Fields, getting ready for a psychiatric possible intervention for Betsy in a couple of days. Christine's Script Church, she gets a call from Joe Smith and Torone stating they'll meet her Tuesday. Alright, so now it's 2 p.m. North Richland Hills after church and lunch. Kristen welcomes him inside and they talk. JR's JR hands her 2 dozen roses. She's like, "You are so beautiful, JR. Why do you do this?" "I brought you these 2 dozen yellow roses, Kristen. Please understand. Trying to avoid the obvious. But I guess in some ways, I'm falling. I'm starting to fall for you. Spend some of the day with me," Kristen said. Anything to get out of that house. Betty says that Mama's in near meltdown. She can't seem to get along with some of the people in the family, myself included. And Brent Clark is on the way up. He was your good friend. He's back with Jesse, so I can't see him anymore. Honey, I remember when I made a public affairs address at the assembly at the School for the Blind. And you looked so beautiful, as you always do. And I love that outfit on you. It's beautiful. Color suits you. Old-fashioned. Just the way I like it. She embraces JR as they sit on the couch together. "Look, honey." And then he says, "Look, honey, Carmen is waiting outside. I've got to go see Jim Bob Horton tonight. I'll give him your regards." And then she's like, no, please. Aunt Charlene is cooking. I'm sorry, darling. And I need to make a big exit. I can't let your grandma find out about me just yet. So he walks out and he motions to Carmen to open the door. And you can just imagine on the other side of the door, both of them, just thinking to themselves, dang it! We were trying to avoid the signs, but the signs were there. Yes, they were. All right. 5 p.m. at the Hendrick Mansion in Gainesville. Christine gets a call from Joe Smith in Toronto stating they'd meet her tomorrow in Kenwood, Texas to discuss the planned departure to London, giving her breadcrumbs to look up John Henry. More like look up his trail in London. Okay, I gotta find March 11th. Here we go, March 11th. March 11th, it's 11 a.m. JoJo's Diner in Kenwood, Texas. Christine is sipping on a Coke when the two gentlemen appear. John knew you and your boyfriend would be searching for answers, and he wants you to have them, Torna says. And what he does is he puts down a little registry and sample key card to his room in London, and he says, here's a registry at a hotel in London called the Settles Hotel. It's the same hotel that one of the scribes of the King James Bible lived. And so I showed another picture of Jennifer and John, and says, and here, this is a picture of John and Jennifer at a 5 and dime on their first date. It was the same 5 and dime that John went to beginning in April to do his blogs. Trona said. John said he fell hard for her at first sight. I hope this doesn't hurt your brother's feelings and keep him from attending the wedding Saturday in Little Rock. Well, I think JR, your father, had other plans. He sure did. Rightfully so. He didn't want Charlie Nation anywhere near me when it came to do with Jennifer anymore. Okay, so it's 3 p.m. Northward from Hills. JR is meeting Kristen at a restaurant, and they talk. And he's like, well, I want you to come meet the family for dinner tomorrow night at 6. And she's like, I don't know, but your mother. Now, honey, I've been sitting in the house all day, studying and crying and listening to the radio, trying to figure out what to do. And Daddy says he'll take care of it. And she says, fine, I'll talk to Aunt Charlene. Have her take me to Denton. Daddy will meet me there and take me to your house in Gainesville. Of course, that changes a little bit. 7 p.m. at the mansion, Christine is talking to Amy Kathleen. And Christine says, if I were you, I wouldn't approach Mom. At least not just yet. She sits in her room looking at old pictures. Sometimes I walk in there and she's staring at the wall, thinking nothing. And Amy Kathleen's like, well, somebody's got to do something. I can call Dad to get it done, Amy Kathleen says. And Jessica's like, look, I mean, I know that the last time we met I said some hurtful things. But I'm here to make some peace. JR has sat and cried all day. And I think we need to sit and pray for his help. So here we go. The fateful day, December 12th. It's midnight. DFW Terminal 2F. Christine walks away from her father through the gate when the two men approach her and David. Don't be scared, Tyrone, I said. Our contact in London is a guy by the name of Mike Inhofe. He's the one that led us to go with John to London. And a male gate agent said, Miss Hendrick, Mr. Morgan, we're ready to board now. You're going first class. So, of course, they board. Christine and Dave board. It's going to be a 3-week trip to London. 6 a.m. With Jim gone to Fort Worth, Betsy is sitting in her room, moping when Elizabeth Marie knocks at the door and walks in. And Betsy's like, go away! I don't want to see anybody. But Aunt Betsy, Claudia's downstairs. And Betsy sighs. She had like a tearful sigh, and she says, why, well, Claude, how come down? So she comes downstairs, and Gerald, Claude is doing small talk about Elizabeth Marie's thesis. And Betsy comes down, runs down the stairs, and Claude meets her. Betsy cries and rushes over to hug him. "I've missed you, Miss Betsy. I've been doing some thinking. There's the Titan Ball in Lubbock in October. I'd like you to join with me and Janet on the planning. Janet and I will take you shopping whenever you're ready. We'll get you a real nice dress for you." "What good is the ball without Jim?" "Here's the icing on the cake. You'll be the lady of the ball. And your brothers called me to help set up a scholarship in your mother's memory." "Memorial scholarship?" I know how terrible that sounds, honey, but Lady Elizabeth is dead. And Betsy bursts into tears and runs from the room upstairs. And she goes into her mother's old room and sits in her easy chair, looking at her mother's classic flowery dresses, and quietly cries. Now, meanwhile, at the Fort Worth Times, it's a private room, boardroom in back, Jr. meets with Jessie. And Jessie's like, "Well, I'll bet you and Brent are pleased with yourself and your masterful plan. You're going out with Kristen, aren't you?" This is not about Brent. I'm walking a fire line here, but I definitely promised Brent that I would ask Kristen out, and he will know when I'm ready. Her daddy's been questioning her about me, about Brent. And let me tell you something. It's almost over. Thank you. Congratulations on a job well done. Anytime you need a favor from me, you just come to old JR. And Betsy's like, "Look, I like you a lot, JR, but I can't afford you." At the same time, it's noon. Okay? And unfortunately, I want you to picture the Who's behind blue eyes. Because Betsy is walking slowly outside the Gainesville estate. And she's emoting. Yep, gotta have another swig of root there. The Who's behind blue eyes. I happen to like Limp Biscuits better, don't you? I do. It's a unique flavor on it. And Gerald, she goes to your grandmother's lawn chair by the pool. And usually there, when she's sitting there by the pool, it's mint juleps or it's gin and tonic. And there's no drinks. And Betsy's just emoting. It's like, oh my gosh. So now we're at 1 p.m. and Amy, Kathleen, and her mom, Diane, are talking in the den. And Diane says, I went to see Margie. And she went on and on today about Brent. But there's a bigger problem. Your Aunt Betsy is beside herself in grief. She won't hardly talk to anyone in the family. And Amy Kathleen said, Jr told me that Brent has achieved a lot for him and by himself this year. But Mom, Mike Fields told me this morning he'll help Uncle Jim take care of it when it comes to Aunt Betsy. And Diane says, well, I hope so, honey, because I have your daddy's number on speed dial, if need be. So it's 2 p.m. Elizabeth Marie is sitting by the pool at the Hendrick Mansion in Gainesville. It's obvious she's there. And Frank pulls up in the drive with a taxi. Obviously, he's paying for the meter. And he walks through the house and finds her. And he's like, studying hard? And Elizabeth Marie's like, what brings you here? I'm saying goodbye. My externship is over, and I'm returning near my parents in Richmond to beginning tomorrow. Taking a job at a strategic trade law firm. And there's dead silence. But I'll email you just as soon as I get settled in. You know, back in our day, email was a way of sending letters, and I think it should be. I think we need to return to the art of letter writing. I think so too, and I think that should be an episode coming in on Strenuous Life Radio. Well, I'll look into that then. All right, so and Elizabeth Marie says, fine. Glad that you did settling. I'm just moving to Richmond. And Elizabeth Marie sighs. I see. So Evelyn decided to follow Loser Boy to Richmond. And he's like, Lizzie. And Elizabeth Marie's like, goodbye then. Elizabeth Marie said, as he walked in the side exit of the pool area, gets into a big yellow taxi and speeds away. Now, 2:30 p.m., Kentucky Belle, Jr, Jim Bob, and Ken get a Mexican feast, and they're sitting down talking. And Jim Bob said, I told Sonny from San Antonio that we're not going to that convention this year. I'm sorry, JR, for what I put you through. Aunt Rose has never let me live it down. Says she knows that you have an academic paper this semester, Jim Bob said. I'm damn sure glad you finished it. I'm glad that we can start working soon on something. Relationships between the four of us. Brad, JR, that's you, and Jim Bob, and me. We've got to start treating each other better, Ken said. Charlotte said I could stay with her this summer, but it's going to be tight. But I'll try to make it some time to the ranch to see you. And Cheryl's like, why don't you join me and Jim Bob going over to Stoney's father's penthouse in Tulsa? Because I am not going to Jennifer's wedding in Little Rock. Gerald said, no, I can't. Papa Bear says I have to go to this society dinner with Dr. Pepper. And Mom would skin me alive if I didn't. Okay, so it's 3 p.m. Waxahachie, Texas. Brent greets Jesse, and they're sitting out in Brent's mother's garden talking. And he's like, well, my conspiracy did work. You must be one hell of a mystic. Because JR sooner or later is going to take the bait and ask Kristen out. And Jesse says, well, for this moment, I don't want to talk about JR. I don't want to talk about Kristen. I don't want to talk about school. I just want to talk about us. And Brent's like, be patient, Jesse. In a little time, I'll ask you to marry me. Okay, so it's 3 p.m. in London. And London Heathrow Airport. Christine and David are swarmed by American and British society press. And a male BBC reporter asked this, was the blogger directing his communication upon his departure for Little Rock? A male BBC reporter said. And Christine's like, no comment. And he said, we've interviewed his crack research staff, and they informed us that they notified him that Jennifer Bowers demanded his presence in Little Rock and to leave your family alone. Is that true? And Christine says, Joe Smith and Tyrone. Okay, that's David says, Joe Smith and Tyrone. We met quite a bit with them. Joe Smith and Tyrone. Once again, hints from the Book of Mormon. Miss Hendrick, it's been an emotional 6 months for you. With your migraine and your meeting John Henry during this ordeal, what do you hope to achieve and succeed in London? A CBS mail reporter asked. And Christine steps up. She says, "How one answers? And normalcy. It's been hard this year in school." And she says, "Anything he had with JR needs to be between those two." 3 security guards came and get him and put him in a limousine. 4:30 p.m. JR shake hands with Kristen's father, John Clifford Haig, and his wife Mary. And then Sally guides Kristen. He takes her to one of the passenger seats behind the driver and climbs in himself. Noticing a small yellow rose as a boutonniere on her dress. While in the car, JR turns on his laptop to Hi-Fi and gets an email from Christine. The following is a spring 1995 schedule and a summer 1995 schedule for Jennifer Bowers at the Women's School of Economics. Alright, partial BSc, spring 1995, economics 3315, macroeconomic policy, economics 4313, managerial economics for public affairs, COMM 3310, principles of public relations, law 3320, mass communications law. Summer 1, 1995, management 3335, corporate affairs, and account management. Okay, so now we're at 6 p.m. It's the infamous dinner scene at the Hendrick Mansion in Gainesville. Dinner tonight is lasagna with a whole Italian fare. Jim and Mike Fields are there. And Jim says, New Year's Eve of 1990. I remember Elizabeth sitting there with the kids. In the den here, playing Nintendo. Cousin Bobby spoke up. She never let me take my stamp collection I got from Constantine Bush to the dinner table. The first Easter after Granddad died, Grandma and insisted on having a barbecue at the ranch. The year after, she didn't care. We could have it here in Gainesville. Tina, did you spell anything else? Lupe said. Suddenly, Betsy grabs a shiny plate out of her mother's hutch. She decided to have a hutch in Gainesville. And she said, I don't want to talk to anyone, much less anybody right now, talking about memories of Mama, much less anybody like you. And Betsy says that she grabs a 1955 dinner plate that Elizabeth and Jeremy Swain had received from Mamie Eisenhower in the White House. And she takes that plate and she goes to the foyer where the stairs are and she drops that plate. And I mean, it shatters into pieces. I mean, I was shaking at the time. Never seen Mama act that way. Upstairs, you could hear her from her mother's room cursing and screaming and smashing things. Lucinda, go to her now, Gerald said. And about 3 minutes later, Lucinda says, Jim, get up here quickly, Lucinda said 3 minutes later. And then Jim's running up the stairs. Oh my God, Betsy! What the hell? What have you done? Go away, Jim! Betsy screams and cries. Someone's calling 911. Betsy, I'm not leaving you like this. Mike, get up here right now. Please don't do this to me. Jim, Betsy said, I'm not going to let you self-destruct, Betsy. An ambulance pulls up in front of the estate. They're here. Go and get them, Mike. Now, Phil said, running down the stairs. Oh, thank God you're here, Jim said, as 3 paramedics strapped Betsy down and went down the stairs with her in a stretcher. I don't want to be doped up, Jim. Babe, you need help. Mama, why did you go die? Betsy screamed and cried. Keep it down, folks. I'm sorry. I'm gone, y'all. Please don't do this to me, Betsy said. Jim went in the ambulance that would take her to North Texas Medical Center in Gainesville. 8 p.m. With Kristen gone home to be with her grandparents, Jr. is sitting with Thomas, Rachel, Amy, Kathleen, and Jessica, discussing what happened. Rachel said it was Madison that came up with the idea. If I see Kyle, I'm going to wring his neck, Jessica said. Welcome to the club. I've been wanting a piece of his hide for 12 years. I also found out from Rachel who would have started this. This guy at the hardware store in Weatherford. Jim had Mike Field contact Claudius Lau, the son of an old contact of his Uncle Jim. Needless to say, the owner of the hardware store and the hardware store will be no more, Thomas said. While I was in Tulsa, I found out the news. Chris Peeps, the captain in the Dixie Mafia, that morning broke into the hardware store, fired 8 shots into the owner, and burned the place to high hell, to sky high hell. Daddy was livid. No one was going to talk about his mother-in-law like that, and injured his pride, being Mama's honor. In 1987, when he came home from Nashville, he promised Granddad he'd fight for his honor. 9 a.m. Madison called to find out from Jim that Betsy has been taken to St. David's Rest Haven Behavioral Health in Denton. She and Kyle offered to come down and help, but Jim refused. Jim, want to talk about that? Well, I think Daddy was damn angry at him. Rightfully so. He was damn angry at a lot of people for humiliating Mama. Good to have daddies like that willing to fight for the mama's honor. Anyway, so it's 11 a.m. Jr., Thomas, Amy, Kathleen, Cousin Joe, Cousin Bobby, Jessica, and Max have been fishing all morning, and now they're ready to return to the estate to have lunch fixed by Maria, and the lunch is manwich. 1 p.m., Dr. Farrell Michelson calls Jim from his own office in Gainesville. He informed him that Betsy was on a mild dose of Lexapro. No, Lexapro, a variation of Prozac that can be taken over the counter because it's herbal. He also stated that Betsy would be able to leave after lunch the next day. 3 p.m. In his room, JR gets a call from Maurice Rosen, a local Tulsa judge and father of Stoney, to let him know that Charlie Jet would be meeting them at the DFW airport on Saturday. The plane would leave at 7:20 a.m. Stoney had asked for this in order to keep JR from wanting to go to Jennifer's wedding, which Mr. Rosen knew that his father would oppose. Okay, so at 7 p.m., from his room, JR gets a call, and Jim Bob has backed out. Guess that makes me obliged to attend Jennifer's wedding, JR said. And Jim's angry. He's like, no, you ain't. I don't like you making plans with Jim Bob Horton anyway. Turns into a damn mess. Someone's going with you to Tulsa if I have to go there myself. Just then, the phone rang, and Jim answered. You sure about this, Norm? Damn, you don't know what this means to me, Jim said, hanging up. You are not flying to Little Rock. Grand Phillips, Norm's boy, is going to be in Dallas, and he's flying with you. Norm had Maurice Rosen as a lawyer years ago, helped him make some contracts. You see, Rachel said, your daddy there was no way he would let you go to Little Rock and get your heart hurt again, thrown up again. Thomas and I talked about it. And if we had to, we would go with you to Tulsa. Okay, so now January 14th, 7 a.m. JR is waiting on the front lawn when Ken pulls up in his red 1993 Jeep pickup. Hey man, are you okay? Mom saw on the news what happened with your mom. Is she okay? Ken said. She flipped out. She lashed out at like me. And that's on my curve. Horton's going to Durant to see the rest of his family. But I'm to keep you out of the house at McDonald's until we get the call that your mom is home. 1 p.m. St. David's Rest Haven Behavioral Health in Denton. Jim's Chrysler van is parked out front. Jim walks in to check Betsy out. 2 p.m. Betsy arrives at the mansion in Gainesville, Texas, and is greeted by the family. Jim takes her straight upstairs to rest. 2:30 p.m. Okay, Betsy summons Gerald to her mother's room, grandma's bedroom. Son, I am so sorry, Betsy said. I feel like I took some of that pain and hurt over losing your grandma out on you. And it isn't fair. I'll forgive you, Mama, Gerald said. Now I hear you're leaving for Tulsa Saturday. I wish you wouldn't. But I understand. You don't want to be reached about the wedding of Jennifer Bowers. I just don't want to be there. His daddy has a good penthouse there. And I got a jet ready for me and ran. Let me guess. Jim Bob canceled on you again? Now, Grandma and I warned you about making any plans with him. 7 p.m. The Hendrick family is having sit down for dinner. Obviously absent was Betsy. Aunt Donna asks Gerald to say grace, and the conversation begins. I'll see Kyle again. I'll wring his neck. I'll see Kyle again. I'll wring his neck. Carl said. That won't do any good, Carl, Donna said. He hurt Mama again. That's something that'll take me a while to get over, Gerald said. I used to love Kyle, but he's just as manipulative and cruel as ever, Jessica said. It wasn't Kyle, Jim said, slamming down his fork. It's all rumors. Innuendo. And I won't have that when I get back. I'm sorry. Have I looked into Grandma Elizabeth's things? I didn't think this would blow up, Rachel said. Madison starts this because of Kyle. We're going to have a barbecue at the ranch. And I'll quietly confront him about it, Carl said. You do no such thing, Donna said.
Then when I come Easter, let me talk to him.
Jessica, if you want to make peace, don't you do that. I want this over and done for, Jim said. My wife's in her room, crying and sleeping. Jim's right, Max said. Let it be over.
I agree,
Rachel said. I'll settle this, Thomas said. I'll settle this. Woo. Okay, so now it's, no, that's the wrong button. I'll find it here in a little bit. Let's go find it. Here it is now. There we go. 5 a.m. Jim wakes up and goes downstairs for some coffee. Together, he and Thomas, they smoke cigarettes on the front patio. 9 a.m. Betsy summons Thomas and Rachel to the living room.
Rachel, I'm sorry,
Betsy said.
My grieving has so overcome me. I know you didn't spread gossip. Whatever you find at that ranch is the truth. Mama had that doctor killed,
Betsy said.
It's okay, Miss Betsy,
Rachel said.
Thomas, Grandma was a hard woman who had to tame the West Texas frontier in the early 1940s. She wasn't a saint, but she didn't lie,
Betsy said. No, she didn't, Thomas said.
I know she's not coming back. But there are her precious memories, and they're always with me.
Okay, that concludes this episode. Hope you enjoy that. This is a stellar episode. I have to give it a 5.3 root beers. Just the whole, the Betsy story was good. We could have highlighted a little bit more with Brent, but then again, 5.3 root beers, Jennifer Powers' schedule at the London School of Economics, and a 4-week vacation in London. JR, I'm going to give it 3.5 root beers because I didn't like Christine going to London for spring break. 2 dozen yellow roses, except instead of Kristen, goes to my wife. And also Jennifer Bowers' 1995 schedule in London. Hope you enjoy listening to the J.R. Hendrick Texan Gentleman. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, become a part of the adventure. This is the James Hendrick Empowerment Network saying until next time, get ready for the rest of the story. It's going to get more interesting from here.